Hello and welcome to this live video, which of course you can catch up with later as well. I'm going to be looking at three reasons why it's not selfish to look after yourself. Now that might seem like a bit of a funny title, but actually I meet so many people who struggle to put themselves not first, but even towards the top of the pile, and find that other people's needs are just coming way before theirs. And they think, hello, Gillian, they think that it's the best thing to actually put others' needs before themselves. So we're going to be looking at three reasons why this isn't the case and three reasons why it's not selfish to look after yourself. Okay, so the first reason is because it's actually putting God first, not you. If you look after yourself, you're showing that you put God first. In the Bible, hi Gail, in the Bible, it tells us that we need to take rest. And in fact, God took rest when he created everything. He took some time out, he took some rest, and he set that example that self-care is important. And if God, the creator and king of the universe, took some time to recover and rest, and surely it's important for us too. So you could perhaps argue that biblical self-care isn't perhaps self-care at all. It's actually surrendering yourself to God's care. And we need to obey what he said, to look after ourselves and actually put God first in that way by showing that we're listening to him. There's a few Bible verses, some of which you will have heard very often. One of the most popular ones when talking about a topic such as this is in Corinthians. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. And that's 1 Corinthians 6:19-20. And there's a couple of other verses as well I wanted to highlight to you. In Philippians 2:4, it says, each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. So there's God saying, actually, don't just look at your own interests, but look to the interests of others. So it's not saying ignore yourself, just look at the interests of others. It's saying look after yourself and look after the interests of others. And in Mark 12:31, it says, love your neighbour as yourself. We know that God has called us to love our neighbour. We know that God has called us to love people in all walks of our life as ourselves. So if God has called us to love those others as ourselves, surely he wants us to love ourselves to a very, very high standard. So to reflect on that point again, really, that biblical self-care isn't self-care, it's putting God first and putting ourselves under God's care. God has commanded us to look after ourselves. So that's the first reason why it's not selfish to look after yourself. And the second reason is that it's important, if you're supporting other people, to be balanced yourself. If you imagine you're part of a pyramid of kind of acrobats, and that pyramid of people is your network and those people that you're supporting, you're probably somewhere along the bottom where you're doing a lot of supporting of those around you, alongside you, and those that you're looking after on top of you. Now, if you're not strong and balanced and well looked after, then that pyramid is going to struggle and that pyramid is going to fall. So the better we take care of ourselves, then the more ability we have to look after those around us. And sometimes it's easy to shortchange our own health and our own self-care for others around us, but actually long term, are we actually shortchanging them by perhaps being able to give less of ourselves later on, or less of ourselves in the evening when we're particularly tired, or less of ourselves because we're slightly stressed? So to be part of that support network of your friends and family, you need to be strong and you need to be balanced, and you need to be able to do that. So although you might think it's costly to others now, if you give up some time to look after yourself, actually it could be very costly to them later on if you don't do it. Okay, and my third point is you're actually, if you look after yourself a little bit more and do things that you can to prevent things happening to you, then you're actually allowing things like government funding and NHS funding to be spent on those who really need it. There's so many things that money is spent on in the NHS that could actually be things that are preventable and things that could be taken care of before they reach the doctor's surgery, before they reach the hospital. So that's something to really bear in mind. There's actually in the Department of Health and Social Care at the moment, there's a paper basically going around about prevention being better than a cure. And I was reading some of that report, and actually they stated that over half of the burden on our NHS service at the moment are things that could be prevented before they hit the GPs and the hospitals, etc. So they're really working hard on helping people to prevent things that could be prevented by changes in lifestyle. And some of those biggest factors, a lot of people are still smoking. Obesity costs the NHS £6 million a year, and actually £27 billion is the cost taken by the wider society, not just the NHS, but Department of Education, Department of Transport, other industries that are impacted by that. And there's actually 10 million adults who drink too much in the UK, and enough to really adversely affect their health. So we need to collaborate together and support each other. And the first thing we can do is to make sure that we are looking after ourselves as well as possible, so that we're not asking for funding further down the line for being treated for something that actually we could have prevented ourselves by living a little bit differently. And so we're the first step in that puzzle of prevention. But obviously then, like I said in point 2, if we're strong and we're part of that pyramid of a support network, then the stronger we are, then the more able we are to help those around us and in society to make some changes as well, which again will mean that the funds can be spent on diseases that at the moment cannot be prevented by the way we live. Things that people desperately need money for medicine, for emergency situations. So we're not being selfish when we're looking after ourselves. We actually need to be doing more of it because God asks us to. So we're actually putting ourselves under God's care and trusting Him if we look after ourselves more. We do it for those around us by cutting corners now in our self-care. Then we're actually depriving the people we care for, maybe sometimes, and later on certainly, of proper care that we can give them. And also we don't want to deprive the NHS of money that could be spent on more serious situations where there is no other answer apart from medicine and care. So you're not selfish. Self-care is really important, and we can really make a difference in our own lives and those of those people around us by taking care and looking after ourselves. I'd love it for those of you who are listening to just write a comment or hit the like if you liked what you saw. Share away. And I hope it was helpful to you all, and I'll catch up with you all soon and speak soon. Take care. Bye.